Rock, welcome to the Bitcoin Italia podcast. You have a very interesting story because, as my audience know, I brought my podcast in El Salvador. We lived there 2 months and a half, spending Bitcoin only, just to see if it was possible, right? That happened back in November, and you have a history with the country. You worked with them to the Bitcoin project first end. So, let's start from the beginning. Can you introduce yourself to the Italian crowd and tell them exactly what you do, what's your business, and how you started to work with Bukele, with President Bukele in El Salvador?
Yeah, so I've been working with, I'm going to try and leave a lot of things out and focus on the things that matter most. I've been working with digital currency since the late 90s. And I've been working in this industry for a long time. And I've been a part of a lot of projects that have helped propel the industry forward. I only do things no one has ever done before.
Right.
I'm not interested in, I'd rather help you if you're doing something than compete with you, right? Or go focus on my thing. And I'm generally interested in innovation where things haven't happened. And the last few years, I've been focused on our system of governance.
Right.
Government, and how do we create a better future, and where these things all converge. And so I did an exploratory presidential run. I call it a reverse engineering reconnaissance mission in 2020. I spent a tremendous amount of time last year working with governments and elections around the world. I've spent a lot of time with heads of state all over the world, legislators, and when Bukele announced the Bitcoin law at this event last year, I saw that as like a legendary, historic event.
Right.
When we look back at the end of the century, what were the decisions and central figures
right.
that helped shape our history books? Very important event. And so I made it immediately my mission to do everything in my power to make sure it was successful.
Right.
And so I then quickly met up with the ambassador of El Salvador to the United States, and we quickly then organized a delegation or a trip to come into El Salvador to bring a bunch of entrepreneurs and service providers and tools to make sure that whatever it is that they wanted to do got done.
Right.
And so 37 of us went down, and of that group, most of the things that were done in El Salvador came out of that trip. I didn't really do much other than organize a bunch of people and came down there, and then I threw a party for Bitcoin Day.
Nice.
But I care deeply about what happens there. Others did most of the work, or all the work. I just brought a group of people down and helped bring the people they needed to make sure that the job got done. Right now, the focus is, really in the, what happens with the Bitcoin bond. They've got Bitcoin City.
Right. Talking about this, do you know why the Bitcoin bond was delayed?
I don't know. I think they say that it's very oversubscribed.
Right.
What is the Bitcoin bond for? Right.
Yes.
The bond is for essentially a geothermal Bitcoin mining operation, as well as the financing of Bitcoin City. And so. I can't say. I know the official narrative is the war in Ukraine, I think was.
Yes. Yeah. I heard that. The thing is that
but I don't know. I was actually just there. I brought CZ to El Salvador like a week and a half ago.
All right, because from your background, you skipped the Tether part.
Yes, I was chairman of Mastercoin, the first ICO, founder of Tether and stablecoin, blockchain capital, first venture fund. We
interview Paolo Arduino all the time.
Yeah. So yes, I've got Italian partners. I've done a lot of things. I try not to.
Right.
I don't want to spend too much time talking about myself. And so my apologies if I overly abbreviated to the point that I was not helping
Don't be too humble. You have to be, you have to balance. No, listen, talking about the bond, because back then when Bukele announced the Bitcoin bond, he and Samson...
And Bitfinex is part of it.
Absolutely. And they announced a state bond. But then lately, we knew that the bond is gonna actually be from Lageo, that is a small private company that runs the geothermal plants in El Salvador, that is owned by Cell, that is the company that owns all the geothermal and hydro plants in the country. Those are a small company. Does that concern you as an investor?
Yes. I haven't, this is one of the things that we talked about, is, I don't know the answer, but one of the conversations is, okay, who is the credit right party? Who is the counterparty? What is the risk? This isn't, it's effectively a state-owned enterprise. And what is the comfort level with, making that investment? Who's the energy provider, who's providing the mining equipment, who's the hardware, what's their operating experience, what background do they have? There's all of those sort of underwriting questions that you would ask yourself, and what do you think the yield is? And I care very much about what happens with this bond.
Yes.
But that is also if, I got what happens in El Salvador being successful is very important. And the big question for me is, if this bond doesn't succeed, right, does that impact other countries wanting to do things? Or not?
Could.
And so the question is, what is this bond being used for? Okay, it's effectively a mining operation and the development of a new sort of kind of city. I'm not sure that that's mission critical.
Right.
I'm trying to figure that out. Because if it is,
then
it's the sort of thing that I'd probably get very involved in making sure happened.
Right.
But if it's not mission critical, I've got 100 other missions.
Right.
And so, I don't know.
Let's see. Listen, one of the things we really wanted to check out, probably the reason why we decided to get our asses to El Salvador and document.
Yeah, but I have questions for you.
Yeah.
How did it go?
It was great, man. It was a fantastic adventure. And what
were the main challenges? Because obviously all the good stuff. As a guy that does the work,
right.
What were the hardest parts? What was the part where you're like, okay, this isn't working?
So we left Italy, and that was late November. So
Sorry for turning this around, but I want to know.
I love it. I love to talk. I'm a big talker, so no worries. No, listen. The first challenge we had was we can curse in my podcast. The first challenge we had was the fucking Chivo wallet that was eating our Lightning transaction all the time. It wasn't working at all. And the merchant version of the Chivo wallet made by Athena, good work guys, the merchant part of the Chivo wallet is even worse. We could never buy food in one of those big supermarkets or stores. We had to go to the small markets and villages because no way that's gonna work. Then there was Chivo 2.0. They updated the app in this early December. Worked so much better. That made, honestly, our life easier. But the thing is this: what we wanted to do is to leave the Bitcoin city, the Bitcoin beach, San Salvador, and to travel far away, like deep in the south, close to La Union, up in the mountain of Morazan, to see if outside that most touristic areas, you could actually already live in Bitcoin after only 3 months. And we made it. That was great. It takes a little preparation. For example, hotels, the adoption, they still have to figure it out. So you just have to call them in advance. Listen, I have no cash, I have no credit cards. Are you gonna accept my Bitcoin? Yes, I'm gonna sleep there. No? Next. So that was actually our daily routine. It was a fantastic adventure, but what I didn't like is that people is clueless. They know nothing about Bitcoin. They can't tell what a transaction, what an on-chain transaction is and what a lightning transaction is. Most of the time, you go in the stores and you ask, I want to pay in Bitcoin. They show you a dollar QR code because you know that Chivo can exchange dollar digitally as well. And when you tell them, no, I need to pay in Bitcoin, they get scared because they never did it, because people, they spent the $30 airdrop and then they kind of forgot of the Chivo wallet. They don't really use it in their daily life. And what is actually scary, and that's my question, is that the government is not spending a dime on education. And I think this is dangerous.
Well, the concern is, knowing the narrative, right? What the president has done here is hugely important historically.
Absolutely.
The question is then execution, right? I care what happens to Bitcoin above all else, right? And your experience is very important. If for some reason what's happening in El Salvador is, if this experiment were to fail, the question is what's responsible? Okay, maybe it was the apps, the development, the education. It's like, and because other countries are coming online, what can they learn from this? Would you move to El Salvador based upon this experience? Would you live there?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
And you want to know why?
Why?
I don't trust politicians. And Bukele is not different. Another thing that I didn't like in El Salvador is that Bitcoin became a political tool. Who's against Bukele? Hate it. And they don't even understand what it is. Who likes Bukele? And they know nothing about it. So what I honestly think is that Bitcoin is above politics, right? It's here to free the world from politicians. So I do think that what is going on in El Salvador is historical. That's why I invested time and money to go there and report. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin doesn't give a fuck. It's gonna happen anyway.
I agree. But I think these things matter.
Totally.
In terms of the rate at which it happens and how it happens. Governments supporting what we're doing will make it happen faster and easier than if they're doing everything in their power to, prevent this from happening. So that's why it matters. I think the future is inevitable. The outcome is going to be the same regardless.
Right.
The path we take is what will be determined. And I prefer an easier, more evolutionary, less revolutionary path. And that's why I'm so excited about what happens here. Is it going to affect the outcome in the end? Not exactly. Will it affect the path we take?
Totally.
Yes. And so, by the way, really, really, and I love it. So refreshing the clarity and your experience, because I care a lot, but I haven't done the real work. That's what I said. I'm like, I brought a bunch of people down there to try and help them get like.
But did you met the president, right?
Bukele and actually they had the ambassadors thing yesterday. President's not here.
Right. Yeah.
And then last trip, I only dropped CZ off and went to a handful of the meetings, and the meeting with the president was the following day. And then the Bitcoin party on September 7th, he wasn't there. We spoke briefly on the phone that day.
Right.
And then in the first trip, when we brought everyone down, because I've only been a couple of times.
Okay.
And they were very short trips.
Okay. So, tell me, what country is going to be the next?
Ooh, I can't say.
I say it for you. Honduras.
I think that would be amazing, because I have spent time in Honduras. I'm not sure that's real.
Okay, cool.
Not sure it's real. I mean, I've gone and done my vetting, and I'm skeptical.
Okay.
I'd be curious to know, because if it is, awesome.
That would be
by the way-
fantastic because they have their own currency. So it's going to be a super interesting experiment to see
Yes.
for them to adopt this.
Well, I think on that same note, I think the countries that are most similar to El Salvador are Belize, Panama, and Ecuador.
Right.
In the sense that they don't have their own central banks.
Dollarized.
They're dollarized.
Dirty word.
By the way, you can see all the countries I'm spending time in. I mean, it's all public, which
Yes.
presidents I'm talking to, and those are, I've talked to all of those presidents.
This was a great talk. Thank you so much for taking the time and speak with me.
Yeah, well, thank you.
And maybe we're going to meet each other in El Salvador. I'm going to be there in October for the Galoy event.
Yeah, I mean, I think my job in El Salvador was done a while ago. I only went back because CZ asked me to make arrangements for him.
Is he a funny guy?
We used to work together. When the Bitcoin ATM industry first emerged, the first Bitcoin ATM, for those that have been around a little while, was called the RoboCoin. Very famously had a line around the block up in Vancouver. And so I ran all of RoboCoin Asia.
Right.
I had 12 different things, but one of them wasn't.
Why CZ was there? Does he want to turn El Salvador in a shitcoin country?
I think that he's trying to see what's going on in South America and Central America and talk with governments. I mean, when you're
That's what they do.
When 50% of transactions are running through your exchange.
We have to wear the logo, so even here at Bitcoin 2022. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much.